Good afternoon. This is Knowledge Time. Welcome, alchemists. Today I'll be reading from the book The Laws of Human Nature by Robert Greene. Currently, I am in chapter 11, Know Your Limits, The Law of Grandiosity, part 3. The Grandiose leader. If people with high levels of grandiosity also possess some talent and a lot of assertive energy, they can rise to positions of great power. Their boldness and confidence attracts attention and give them a larger than life presence. Mesmerized by their image, we often fail to see the underlying irrationality in their decision-making process and so follow them straight into some disaster. They can be very destructive. You must realize a simple fact about these types. They depend on the attention we give them. Without our attention, without being adored by the public, they cannot have their high self-opinion validated, and in such cases, the very confidence they depend on withers. To awe us and distract us from the reality, they employ certain theatrical devices. It is imperative for us to see through their stage tricks or mythologize them and scale them back down to human size. In doing so, we can resist their allure and avoid the dangers they represent. The following are 6 common illusions they like to create. I am destined. Grandiose leaders often try to give the impression that they were somehow destined for greatness. They tell stories of their childhood and youth that indicates their uniqueness, as if fate had singled them out. They highlight events that showed from early on their unusual toughness or creativity, either making such stories up or reinterpreting the past. They relate tales from earlier in their career in which they overcame impossible odds. The future great leader was already in gestation at a young age, or so they may make it seem. When you hear such things, you must become skeptical. They are trying to forge a myth, which they themselves probably have come to believe in. Look for the more mundane facts behind the tales of destiny, and, if possible, publicize them. Wow. I think I could see me having that. Wow, so that was an illusion. I mean, I had to. Um, yeah, I had to tell my man that hit me. No, I think that one right there, because I lived in such a fucked up childhood that I had to tell myself that I was great. If not, man, oh my God, wow. Okay, getting back. I'm the common man, woman. In some cases, grandiose leaders may have risen from the lower classes, but in general, they either come from relatively privileged backgrounds or because of their success have lived removed from the cares of everyday people for quite some time. Nevertheless, it is absolutely essential to present themselves to the public as highly representative of the average man and woman out there. Only through such a presentation can they attract the attention and the adoration of large enough numbers to satisfy themselves. Indira Gandhi, the Prime Minister of India from 1966 to 1977 and 1980 to 1984, came from political royalty. Her father, Jawaharlal Nehru, having been the first prime minister of the country. She was educated in Europe and lived for most of her life far apart from the poor segments of India. But as a grandiose leader who later became quite dictatorial, she positioned herself as one with the people, their voice speaking through her. She altered her language when speaking in front of large crowds and used homely metaphors when she visited small villages. She would wear her sari as local women wore them, and would eat with her fingers. She liked to present herself as Mother Indira, who ruled over India in a familiar motherly manner. And this style she assumed was highly effective in winning elections, even though it was pure stagecraft. The trick grandiose grandiose leaders play is to place the emphasis on their cultural tastes, not on the actual class they come from. They may fly first class and wear the most expensive suits, but they counteract this by seeming to have the same culinary taste as the public, enjoy the same movies as others, and avoid at all costs the whim of cultural elitism. In fact, they will go out of their way to ridicule the elites, even though they probably depend on such experts to guide them. They are simply just like the common folk out there, but with a lot more money and power. The public can now identify with them despite the obvious contradictions, but the grandiosity of this goes beyond merely gaining more attention. These leaders become vastly enlarged by this identification with the masses. Excuse me. They are not merely one man or woman, but embody an entire nation or interest group. To follow them is to be loyal to the group itself. To criticize them is to want to crucify the leader and betray the cause. Even in the prosaic corporate world of business, we find such religious style identification. Eisner, for instance, liked to present himself as embodying the entire Disney spirit, whatever that meant. If you notice such paradoxes and primitive forms of popular association, stand back and analyze the reality of what is going on. You will find at the core something quasi mystical, highly irrational, and quite dangerous, in that the grandiose leader now feels licensed to do whatever he or she wants in the name of the public. I will deliver you. These types often rise to power in times of trouble and crisis. Their self confidence is comforting to the public or to shareholders. They will be the ones to deliver the people from the many problems they are facing. In order to pull this off, their promises have to be large yet vague. By being large, they can inspire dreams. Being vague, nobody can hold the person to account if they don't come to pass, since there are no specifics to get hold of. The more grandiose the promises and visions of the future, the more grandiose the faith they will inspire. The message must be simple to digest, reducible to a slogan, and promising something large that stirs the emotion. As part of this strategy, these types require convenient scapegoats, often the elites or outsiders, to tighten the group identification and to stir the emotions even further. The movement around the leader begins to crystallize around hatred of these scapegoats, who begin to stand for every bit of pain and injustice each person in the crowd has ever experienced. The leader's promise to bring these invented enemies down increases the leader's power exponentially. What you will find here is that they are creating a cult more than leading a political movement or a business. You will see that their name, image, and slogans must be reproduced in large numbers and assume a godlike ubiquity. Certain colors, symbols, and perhaps music are used to bind the group identity and appeal to the basest human instincts. People who now believe in the cult are doubly mesmerized and ready to excuse any kind of action. At such a point, nothing will dissuade true believers, but you must maintain your internal distance and analytical powers. I rewrite the rules. A secret wish to humans is to do without the usual rules and convention in place in any field. To gain power just by following our own inner light. When grandiose leaders claim to have such powers, we are secretly excited and wish to believe them. Michael Cimino was the director of the Academy Award winning film The Deer Hunter, 1978. That's my year I was born. To those who worked with and for him. However, he was not simply a film director, but rather a special genius on a mission to disrupt the rigid corporate Hollywood systems for his next film, Heaven's Gate, 1980. He negotiated a contract that was completely unique in Hollywood history, one that allowed him to increase the budget as he saw fit and to create precisely the film he had envisioned with no strings attached. On the set, Cimino spent weeks rehearsing the actors in the right kind of roller skating he needed for one scene. One day he waited hours before rolling cameras just so the perfect kind of cloud could pass into frame. The cost soared, and the film he had initially turned in was over 5 hours long. God. In the end, Heaven's Gate was one of the greatest disasters in Hollywood history, and it virtually destroyed Cimino's career. It seemed that the traditional contract had actually served a purpose to rein in the natural grandiosity of any film director and make him or her work within limits. Most rules do have common sense and rationality behind them. As a variation on this, grandiose leaders will often rely on their intuitions, disregarding the need for focus groups or any form of scientific feedback. They have a special inside connection to the truth. They like to create the myth that their hunches have led to fantastic successes, but close scrutiny will reveal that their hunches miss as often as they hit. When you hear leaders present themselves as the consummate maverick, able to do away with rules and science, you must see this only as a sign of madness, not divine inspiration. I have the golden touch. Those with heightened grandiosity will try to create the legend that they have never really failed. If there were failures or setbacks in their career, it was always the fault of others who betrayed them. U.S. Army General Douglas MacArthur. Speaking of MacArthur, I went to MacArthur Elementary School in Clark Air Force Base, Philippines. There was a school named after him. Was a genius at deflecting blame. To hear him say it, in his long career, he had never lost a battle, although in fact he had lost many. But by triumphing his successes and finding endless excuses, such as betrayals for his losses, he created the myth of this magical battlefield powers. Grandiose leaders inevitably resort to such marketing magic. Related to this is the belief that they can easily transfer their skills. A movie executive can become a theme park designer. A businessman can become the leader of a nation because they are magically gifted. They can try their hand at anything that attracts them. This is often a fatal move on their part as they attempt things beyond their expertise and quickly become overwhelmed with the complexity and chaos that come from their lack of experience in dealing with such types. Looking carefully at their record and notice how many glaring failures they have had. Although people under the influence of their grandiosity will probably not listen, publicize the truth of their record in as neutral a manner as possible. I'm invulnerable. The grandiose leader takes risks. This is what often attracts attention in the first place, and combined with the success that often attends the bold, they seem larger than life. But this boldness is not really under control. They must take actions that create a splash in order to keep the attention coming that feeds their high self-opinion. They cannot rest or retreat because that would cause a lapse in publicity. To make things worse, they come to feel invulnerable because so many times in the past they have gotten away with risky maneuvers. And if they face setbacks, they manage to overcome them through more audacity. Furthermore, these daring activities make them feel alive and on edge. It becomes a drug. They need bigger stakes and rewards to maintain the feeling of godlike invulnerability. They can work 20 hours a day when under this form of pressure. They can walk through fire. In fact, they are rather invulnerable until the fatal hubristic maneuver in which they finally go too far and it all crashes down. That happened to me in South Korea. This could be MacArthur's grandiose tour of the United States after the Korean War, in which his irrational need for attention became painfully apparent, or Mao's fatal decision to unleash the Cultural Revolution, or Stan O'Neill, CEO of Merrill Lynch, sticking with mortgage-backed securities when everyone else was getting out, essentially destroying one of the oldest financial institutions in the country. Suddenly, the aura of being invulnerable is shattered. This occurs because their decisions are determined not by rational considerations, but by the need for attention and glory. And eventually, reality catches up in one hard blow. I can contest to that. I learned my lessons. In general, in dealing with the grandiose leader, you want to try to deflate the sacred, inglorious image they have forged. They will overreact and their followers will become rabid. But slowly, a few followers may have second thoughts. Creating a viral disenchantment is your best hope. Man. In conclusion, I mean, what I got from this was pretty much, I pretty much went through all these illusions. I am destined. I've been to that, like saying I always kept telling myself, I'm destined for greatness. I mean, I still do it too, and I still use it to the day. So, I'm the common man, woman. I've lived that where, yeah, pretty much I'm the common man. Um, I will deliver you. I rewrite the rules. I have the golden touch. I'm invulnerable. The last one, the last illusion. I definitely probably I live by that motto, and I live I live for it to the. It's like a code within me. So I take risk on a daily. Now that I'm up in my age, I'm taking less, but I still take them. And I look around at, dudes my age, and I don't see them taking no type of risk. I'm like, damn, no risk on the side. It's just all that. It's not even defensive anymore. They just give the reins to their woman. So, outro. Subscribe to the channel. Comment any questions you have. Like if the information was inspiring for you, and share this knowledge with other alchemists. Also, follow me on Instagram for more progressive knowledge. My Instagram is max_Bugatti_8008. I'm about family first. I'm a global stock investor. I'm a filmmaker. I'm an aerospace botanist. I have a masculine confidence buildings program. And if any of you guys are interested in that, males, pretty much I go over topics like health is wealth. Under that is nutrition and fitness. Second topic is build your business. For how to form an LLC, how to form a holding company. Also invest in. I got also within the masculine confidence building course. I teach you how to invest in the global stock market, land, real estate, precious metals, and then networking events. Pretty much any you guys interested in networking. Pretty much, I network in San Francisco. I go to all the technology functions. So I'm going to one in March. It's Vets in Tech is hosting it, and it's the invasion in Silicon Valley 2019. So I go to events like that to pretty much build my masculine confidence, um, build a family, you know, either pass on your legacy to your kids or die forgotten. The choice is yours. So that's one of those things that I asked that question years ago. So I want to pass my legacy on. So that's another thing for a man wanting masculine confidence. These are the things. Since I'm an aerospace botanist, I consume medical marijuana and I grow it. So pretty much, that's one for pretty much men that want to pretty much know how to doctor themselves. That's another masculine confidence builder. U.S. military. I was in the U.S. military. I have a topic for U.S. military veterans only. I talk about VA's service-connected disability compensation, how to get that. VA clothing allowance is $800 per year for 2019. So I'll show you guys how to get that. The VA vocational rehabilitation and employment. I'm currently in that in San Francisco. So they even pay BAH out there. So it's like 4,000 to go to school out there, and for them to pay for pretty much housing. There's another one called Survivors and Dependents Educational Assistance, Chapter 35. My wife is in that now, so I mean we're pretty much both, getting educated and getting paid by Uncle Sam. So next topic, I'll show you guys how to get credit responsibly. Currently, I'm here in Colombia, South America. I'll show you how to get credit out here for Americans. It's hard because a lot of Americans in the past, they came here, they got credit, they dipped. So now, like me, I'm seeing it, even with a family, they're like, no. So I still got to build more, more. I got 2 credit cards, so with those cards, I'm just working on paying them, showing history that I can handle it. So I got that, and then, slowly building in another country. And then once this is, I get everything going here, my next move will be in Europe. So I'll be learning how to get credit in euros. So now, oh man, that's a whole nother topic on the masculine confidence building program. And then also currently, I'm 20,000 in debt. Like usually I'm the type of person that I'll just panic my way and swear up and down like I can beat it, and I'll pay it. But I had to get real with myself. Like I entered a program called Freedom Debt Relief. Pretty much the minimum debt requirement for them is 10K. So they charge 20% of the debt. So say since my debt was 20,000, it's gonna cost me 4,000 with them. So basically, since the 1st of February be my first payment, I'm gonna do a show on that. Show you guys like, my journey on pretty much debt relief. Like I don't have to pay the interest on it. They're guaranteed to knock it down in half, so 10,000, and then their fee is 4,000. So pretty much I'm paying back 14,000 in 4 years. But I'm gonna pay probably probably double. I'm looking at doubling it so I can pay it off in 2 instead of 4. So probably I'm shooting for 3. So, and that's something new. And then also I got knowledge time where this is knowledge time where I read a book, or just read a chapter a day, to pretty much get over my fears and something to look back on, since education is not my strong suit. So, and then also on knowledge time, I'm gonna have a segment for artificial intelligence, neutral networks, machine learning, deep learning, big data. Pretty much going over that under knowledge time. But pretty much knowledge time is just I read a book, and after this book I'll probably read another book from Robert Greene, probably the 48 Laws of Power or 33 Strategies of War, because really this author Robert Greene got me into reading. So I'm just like paying homage back. So that's why I'm reading, breaking down the book chapter by chapter, subchapter by subchapter. So I don't miss anything. It's something new to me, like actually scanning a whole book, and whether liking the subject or not, just keep rocking through it. But also it's helping me with my vocabulary. So